Yes. Okay. Let's talk about the rookies. We're going to do a quick transition. In rookie drafts this year, there was a lot of movement within the top six, but something that almost everybody agreed with, and really it was such a clear market distinction that even if you didn't agree with it personally, you almost just had to draft this way or trade out or something else because it was so clear cut. But basically, it was Bijan Robinson was one, and then in some order, we're talking about Anthony Richardson, talking about Jahmyr Gibbs, Bryce Young, CJ Stroud, and Jackson Smith and Jigba. That order that I just read them out is the order of their closing ADPs in rookie drafts in May, but certainly there was a lot of variance within those latter five names. What we're going to talk about now is how we think we would order that top six today. Having done my rankings, it has become a cluster. We have really Bijan Robinson, everything that we asked, everything that we expected. Two of the quarterbacks in Richardson and Stroud have certainly done a lot to help their cause early on, to the point that I think that is kind of separating in the market, and I think correctly, as the top three. And then the rest of this top six, Gibbs, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and Bryce Young, very slow starts. Meanwhile, we have guys like Sam Laporta, Devon Achane from the late first, Zay Flowers from the late first. I should say Achane and Laporta really more the 1-2 turn. Laporta even into the mid-second sometimes. And then everyone's favorite fourth-round pick / fifth-round pick / UDFA, Puka Nacua. That's probably the 9 right now, or the 10 right now. Who are we picking in our top six? Let's start at the very, very top. Is Bijan Robinson still the 101, or has he been usurped by either of the quarterbacks?
No, I think Bijan's still the 101. It depends on how we're doing it, right? Like, I always do my rankings of I have to draft this player and keep them forever. So I want Bijan. If I could draft this player and not keep them forever, I think it'd be a lot closer between him and Anthony Richardson. Because I think Richardson has been far better than advertised in college. Even though it's like, and I don't know, it's such a small sample. Like he's still not completing passes at anywhere near a respectable rate.
Watch the games, bro. This is just a watch the games, bro situation. Like you just have to watch the games, and you have to see him do it on vibes, and it's fine. I don't care about his completion percentage.
Well, he's just like making miracles happen. Like he's like late game heroics. Like he just seems to like get it. You know, like
he's Michael Vicking it up. Like people are like, oh, his completion percentage doesn't matter. It's fine.
I mean, it does to some degree. You can't run a functional offense for the long term, completing 40% of your passes. But can he get to 60%? Yeah, probably he can. Maybe. I hope so. I think he can.
I don't know. Probably not. It doesn't matter.
It matters.
Well, one of the things about his completion percentage is like, look, his completion percentage is always going to be fake low, because I like a lot of the times that other players would be like checking down for a 2-yard gain to some running back or backup tight end. Like he's just scrambling. So like those now don't count as completions because he's just going to throw less checkdowns. So like instead of having like 8 checkdowns a game, he's just like going to have those be 8 scrambles, and that's fine. He's not like necessarily throwing at a super high ADOT. He did throw downfield a lot more this week than he did in week 1. Hence like the 45% completion percentage or whatever it is. But that's one thing to consider. And then the other thing is it's just, I don't know, it's all vibes, no breaks, man. Like he's just doing his thing. Like sometimes the pass comes out, it's nowhere fucking near the receiver at all. There's no chance. It's like throwing it to a different field altogether. I don't know who it's to. I don't know what the goal was. And you look back and he's just like smiling. He's like, yeah, that was a foul ball. That's fine. Only got 2 strikes. I still got a bat in my hands.
Foul this one off. Whoops. Live to play another.
Like the next one's done. You know, the throw that he makes, like he already makes some of the coolest throws in the NFL. You must have seen on Twitter this throw where he like gets away from the guy rushing behind him and then does like a jump pass into the lap of Aaron Donald for like 40 yards, and it's like bang on target to Alec Pierce.
Yeah.
Like that like defies physics. Like I don't understand how that was humanly possible to throw that ball.
Yeah. So his ADOT has been wild. Like his first game was 5.3, not good. His second game, he only passed, what do you have, 10 pass attempts?
Yeah, and then he got
not that many, but like 1.9. Like he was just dunking or dinking and dunking the whole time. And then his last game, 13.5. He was airmailing.
He was slinging. He was chucking.
So, like, yeah, it went from, it looked like he was completing all these passes. He had a 64%, then he had a 60%. I was like, yeah, I mean, those are pretty good, but those are like pretty high percentage passes. And he's probably completing them a much lower rate than other quarterbacks. His
completion percentage over expected is dead last in the NFL.
Yeah.
And there's been this whole thing about this, like, there's been the chart controversy because people posted the chart. Some, like, troll account posted the chart that was basically a completion percentage over expected versus EPA per dropback chart.
Oh, yeah.
And you can read that a few ways. Like, if you do the thing where you're like, these two things are equal, and then you, like, read it diagonally, he actually shows up as last. Even though he's, like, positive EPA per dropback, it's just that his completion percentage over expectation is so brutal that he shows up last. But, like, you probably shouldn't read it diagonally because EPA is just a better stat. And also, like, there's something to be said for, like, the ability to still be a net positive on every dropback while not being able to complete a pass. It's, like, kind of cool.
Just imagine if he could complete more passes. His EPA would be through the roof.
I mean, the one thing is, like, people should say, like, CPOE just, like, fully disregards running. Yeah. Which, like,
it's like a big
if Anthony Richardson, like, didn't run, he would have been undrafted. So I feel like clearly the running's a big part of the deal.
I do feel, and I don't know enough about, like, the calculation of EPA, but it does strike me, especially in these small samples, that it's very, like, touchdown heavy. Is that accurate? It is, right?
Yeah. I mean, realistically, like, any stat, even good stats, in 4-week samples, and in Anthony Richardson's case, it's basically a 2-week sample.
Yeah.
Are just not going to be, like, worthy of, like, a whole lot of discussion.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like his EPA was slightly inflated because he's got a pretty high TD rate, I think, because he doesn't have that many passes. He's got 3 touchdowns. Right. Maybe I'm wrong. But and then like his rushing,
he ran for solid 1 or 2. Yeah.
He had a lot of rushing yards, I think, like 50 or 60.
Oh yeah, I mean touchdowns
each game, right?
For 1 or 2 touchdowns.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, like Anthony Richardson, yes, I'm very intrigued by Anthony Richardson. Always was, but I was always like, I want to see him on the football field in the NFL before I'm like, it's an acceptable risk to take. Now I'm like, if you got him, just hold him. Like, I don't think he's going to get replaced next week or anything. Like, they're going to give him some time.
He's not getting replaced anytime soon.
So
yeah, I understand that there are a lot of Bears fans who preemptively said that they had the answer at quarterback, and then like that became less and less likely, that they just stuck to their blind certainty. And I just want everybody to know that as a Colts fan, I don't care what happens. I will be holding to the prior that Anthony Richardson is our quarterback in the future, no matter what, and against all evidence. Because we're all in, baby, all vibes, no data.
There is nothing more infuriating than fandom analysis. So, anyways, I'm taking Bijan, and then I'm taking Anthony Richardson, and then I'm taking CJ Stroud, just because CJ Stroud doesn't have the same type of ceiling available to him that Anthony Richardson does. Even though I think CJ Stroud is easily the best of the 3 quarterbacks thus far, I'm just not like, what's the word? I'm not like super in fantasy. Like, I think your ranking of them at, what do you say, 12, 13?
I have them at 12. So I have them in the same order that you have them. I have Bijan at 9 and Richardson at 10, and I have both of those guys in a tier that is 3 to 4 base ones spanning from 5 to 11. And then I have Stroud at the very top of a little 2-man tier, which is 2.5 to 3 base ones, and it's him at 12 and Tua at 13. They're in a little tier by themselves.
That's perfectly acceptable. I think that's kind of where I would expect. Like, I think it was last week, maybe even, where we were like, what's CJ Stroud going to be worth at the, this time next year, or like beginning of next season? and we said he's going to be a 1-2 turn. And I think having him there is just getting there early, and it's fine. That's where he's going to be anyway. So if you want to buy now, I think he's still like 25 or something on Fantasy Calc. I don't know where he is at KT at Keep Trade Cut, but yeah, I think we're moving in that direction pretty rapidly. Like he's doing things.
I would actually be buying Stroud right now, if anything, because like he's just on. Sorry,
of the three, you mean?
Well, probably like I mean, I would buy Bijan because like I'm like always going to be buying Bijan. I'm not super sure if like we're ever getting a realistic chance to buy Anthony Richardson again. Okay, I guess here's the difference that I see between them. So like I like Richardson more than Stroud. I guess to be clear, if I could pay the same price for either, I would rather have Richardson.
Yeah,
I think that with Stroud, like the market might be a little bit slower to adjust in some places where you might actually be able to get him. Basically, I was having this discussion about the quarterbacks in a group chat that I'm in for a long time last night. We were talking about like Burrow and Lawrence and Herbert in relation to Stroud and Tua, and like, is this 2 tiers? Is this the same tier? And at first, I was like, I think it's all the same tier. When I actually did the rankings, I was like, I don't know if it's the exact same, but it's like kind of the same. That's why I had this little half tier, where it's just like a confidence level thing. I think from like a market perspective, like Stroud is just like inevitably on his way to the Burrow and Herbert zone. So I feel like if you just want to like trade for him and just like know that he's like going to be there at the end of the year, and then you just like can then trade him then. And if someone is not quite realizing that he is fully going to be there at the end of the year yet, and you get to bank a profit, then you can just do that. Because like that's just happening. Like unless he breaks his leg, whatever else, like this is as locked in. Sometimes you can be overreactionary. I don't care. Quarterbacks, look, we get a way bigger sample every game out of quarterbacks than we get out of a wide receiver. Wide receivers, we're talking about, they probably get 7 or 8 targets most of the time. Quarterbacks, they drop back a lot, right? They're dropping back 40, 45 plays. Like when we're talking about the sample of a wide receiver versus a quarterback in one single data set, we're talking about like 6 times the amount of relevant plays. So we're getting a larger sample already.
CJ Stroud already has 172 dropbacks this season in 4 games.
Exactly.
It's wild.
No, like Puka, I guess, is going to have 172 targets, but none of the rest of the wide receivers in the whole season. So we're already getting like a season's worth of sample on him, basically, from a wide receiver perspective. Also, just rookie quarterbacks are never really good. It's very rare when they are. And when they are good, they're almost always awesome. And I only have to say almost because fucking Baker Mayfield exists.
There's a few. Mac Jones was pretty awesome relative to rookie quarterbacks. He had like the same PFF grade as Baker Mayfield, which is wild.
He was very good compared to rookie quarterbacks. I don't know if this is just a vibes-based take or if this is like quantifiable, but I just don't think that him and Stroud are like at all comparable from what I recall.
Mac Jones?
Mac Jones' rookie season versus what Stroud
is. No. Mac Jones was like the 15th overall pick. CJ Stroud was the number 2 pick to a quarterback.
Right. I think he looks already awesome. Like I don't even think that Stroud is like just like good for a rookie. Like I think he's actually just a good quarterback like already.
Well, his PFF grades, he went 55.6, 64, 80, 75. Like I'm not if you just like throw out the first game he's ever played in the NFL, he's like one of the best quarterbacks in football right now.
Right. So I just think it's like honestly at this point, it would be like outright fucking shocking if this guy's not awesome. So I think that.
Have you seen the tweets about like his first 4 games passing yardage?
Yeah, it's like best ever, isn't it? Or close to it.
It's hilarious. Like it's like Andrew Luck and I forget who else, but like a couple of good players and also him. And then number 1 on the list, of course, is Cam Newton, which is hilarious. But I don't know if you remember if you were playing fantasy football.
He threw 400 yards his first 2 starts, I believe.
First 2 games ever, he threw 400 yards for pop. And I was like, this is crazy. Like he was not supposed to be able to throw. He was supposed to be worse than Anthony Richardson.
Right. No,
maybe not worse.
Yeah, basically that's where I would see with Stroud, right? And I think it's like a certainty. Like I think the ceiling is lower than Richardson because he doesn't run, but I'm like this train is already in motion and it's driven by it's on autopilot. Like it's just driving towards Herbert, and it's going to get there. And for as long as you can trade before it's there, you just keep firing at it. Is my take. Richardson's a little different in that, like, in theory, this train is going to Lamar and Hurt Station, but there are intersections. Like there's Fields Way. there's like Lance Alley. I guess it's not Lance Alley because Lance really got to start. But like I don't think there's a lot of questions about it in the short term, but I still do have long-term questions about Richardson, which, as crazy as it sounds after 4 games, I already don't about Stroud. So I think with Richardson, like, if you can get a price where you're just like, I'm getting a really good price on this super high upside quarterback, I'm down. And I'm not necessarily saying he's a sell, but I think you can just like process buy Stroud under the absolute certainty that if he hasn't already maxed out the value of that archetype, he's going too soon. Whereas Richardson, I think, is a little bit more still like a risk reward bet. And obviously the reward is absolutely massive, but that's why I think I'm probably less likely to actually be able to purchase him versus Stroud.
Yeah, I think the other thing that is somewhat surprising with CJ Stroud, and it's only been 4 games, so I think we need to like let it marinate for a while, but he's already averaging like 13 yards per game rushing, which I thought he'd be like at 0. So right. That's kind of exciting. Like there's a little tiny rushing floor there, which is neat, but it's only been 4 games. So I think we just need to like wait it out and see if that actually materializes. But that's like roughly what Justin Herbert rushes for. He rushes for 15 yards per game. So that's kind of fun. Yeah. I honestly thought he's going to be like Mac Jones, where we have like 0, like literally 0. So
he had a goal line touchdown run that got called back to the hole this week.
Yeah. So yeah, anyways, CJ Stroud, love him. I think like CJ Stroud is like the perfect example of like just let the draft come to you. You know, like I felt like in rookie drafts nobody wanted CJ Stroud. He was like the leftover guy.
It was all these 106s where I was like, oh, Stroud again, all right. Oh, Stroud again, fine. Oh,
I got him in a couple weeks too, and I'm like, I did go into the draft being like, man, I need to get CJ Stroud. Like he's my dude. It's just like, I like him and he's available, so I'll pick him. And I think that's like one of the advantages of like trading back within tiers and stuff is like, because if you were picking at, 102 and you were looking at Bryce Young or trading back to CJ Stroud or Anthony Richardson at 104, I think like that's a pretty easy trade back. And, you never really know who the best player is going into it. You need to be open to. Hey?
Right. I said at Panthers. Trading everything to go get the 101 instead of just sitting. I gotta say, I had so many tweets about the Colts situation at 104 where I was like, don't move up. Just like stay there and just pick whoever comes there. Like we're gonna get a guy. And let's just see who it is. It is ironic that the one team that went all out to go and get their guy at 101, and it's still early, but at least this point, it's like they got the worst of the bunch.
Worst one.
And they paid a lot for it. And they gave up all the assets and their wide receiver. So now they need him to be the best because they don't have any realistic path to ever get him a weapon ever again. It's just tough.